In this video, we are going to see how to solve quadratic equations in the form ax squared plus bx equals 0. Our first example is to solve the equation x squared plus 5x equals 0. We can tell that this equation is in the form ax squared plus bx equals 0 because the first term is a quadratic term, and the second term is a linear term. The quadratic term is the one that has the variable raised to the second power, and the linear term is the term that has the x raised to the first power, and both terms can have coefficients. These equations can be solved by factoring and applying the zero product rule. I'll explain what is the zero product rule when we get to that point. First, let's factor the equation. As you can see, these equations have two terms that have a common term in them. Both of them have the same variable. In this case, both have an x. So we are going to go ahead and factor this equation by common term. In this case, both have an x in them, so x is our common term. Now, remember factorization. X times what gives us x squared? Well, times x. X times what gives us 5x? Well, times 5. And this equation is equalized to 0. Let's double check our factorization. X times x, x squared. X times plus 5 plus 5x. So our factorization is correct. Now, our factorization says that if we multiply x times x plus 5, our result is 0. What multiplication gives us 0 as a result? Our only option is for one or both of the terms to be 0. Think of number 2. What number do we have to multiply 2 by in order for our result to be 0? Our only option is 2 times 0. Therefore, the zero product rule says that if the multiplication of two numbers gives us 0 as a result, one or both of the numbers has to be 0. When we apply the zero product rule to quadratic equation, means that we are going to equalize to 0 each term that we factorized. In this example, our first term is x. So we are going to equalize x to 0. And since the x was by itself, our first solution is 0. We got our answer directly. And to get our second solution, we are going to equalize to 0 the second term. X plus 5 equals 0. Now we clear x, the 5 passes subtracting, and this gives us our second result. X is also minus 5. So 0 and minus 5 is the solution to this quadratic equation. We can check our solution by substituting our answers in the equation. Let's check our first result. x1 equals 0. X, which is 0, squared plus 5x, which is 0, should give us 0 as a result. 0 squared, 0, plus 5 times 0, 0. And 0 plus 0 is 0, so we are correct. Now let's check our second solution. Minus 5. Minus 5 squared plus 5 times minus 5 equals 0. Now let's solve the squares. The square of minus 5 is 25, plus 5 times minus 5 is minus 25. Now 25 minus 25 is 0. And since 0 is 0, our solution is correct. Let's apply the zero product rule to our next example. Now our quadratic equation is 20x squared minus 15x. Again, we only have the quadratic term and the linear term. So let's find the common factor between these two terms. We have 20 and 15. 5 is a multiple of both numbers, so 5 is a common term, and our variable x also is a common term between them. So 5x times what gives us 20x squared minus 15x as a result. 5x times what gives us 20x squared, or 4x, because 5 times 4 is 20, and x times x is x squared. Now 5x times what gives us minus 15x, minus 3, because 5 times minus 3 is minus 15, and we have 1x. Okay, and the equation says that that is equal to 0. Now that we know that our factorization is correct, let's apply the zero product rule. That means that we are going to equalize to 0 each of our terms. Our first term, 5x. 5x equals 0. X equals 0 over 5. And 0 over 5 is 0. So our first solution of x is 0. Now let's equalize to 0 our second term. For x minus 3 equals 0. For x equals positive 3. Now our number 4 passes dividing, 3 over 4. And 3 over 4 is 0.75. To check our solution, we substitute the values in the equation. 20 times 0 squared minus 15 times 0. Okay, let's solve. The square of 0 is 0, and 20 times 0 is 0, minus 15 times 0, 0, and 0 minus 0 is 0. So our first solution is correct. Now let's check 0.75. Now let's check our second solution. Since we have a decimal number, and we are going to be squaring, to keep our solution exact, let's use our number as a fraction, 3/4. 20 times the square of 3/4 minus 15 times 3/4 should be equal to 0. Okay, 20 times the square of 3/4 is 9 over 16 minus 15 times 3/4. 15 times 3 is 45 fourths equals 0. Now to solve 20 times 9 over 16ths, we multiply 20 times 9, and that is 180 over 16 minus 45 over 4 equals 0. We can simplify 180 over 16 by dividing both numbers over 4. 180 over 4 is 45, and 16 over 4 is 4. Now we have 45 over 4 minus 45 over 4, and this gives us 0. Since 0 equals 0, our solution is correct. This was how to solve a quadratic equation in the form ax squared plus bx equals 0. Thank you for watching this video.